So welcome to the second session in the series. And as we all know, times are very different. So therefore, instead of a breakfast seminar, we have a lunchtime, well, just after lunch seminar. I do miss the fact that I can't see my audience who I'm talking to, but those are the things that I will discuss today as to how, you know, training and teaching is going to change. So we'll talk about how training and learning. In fact, I'll be more general. I'll talk about learning in general, not just corporate training. Corporate training is just one of the many things. We have all the way from primary school, we have our education system going all the way up to level 10, a PhD. And a lot of us in Ireland have a level 8 or a level 9. The stated goal of the country is that everybody should be looking to get at least a level 9. That's why we have our Springboard program and the ICT Skillnet programs. But today, what we're going to do is look at the future of learning. Now, it's not that change has happened overnight, it's just that there has been a sudden, drastic change. But before I get into that, let me quickly introduce myself. As you know, my name is Vikas Sahni. I came to Ireland in 1998, so I spent most of my professional career here. Been here, done that, done a lot of things, right from mainframe assembler programming to .NET to cloud. I used to do a lot of cloud. These days, I do cloud, I do cybersecurity, and I do blockchain and distributed ledger technologies. I'm also currently the chair of the Irish Standards Committee for Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology Standards. We are making progress there, but that's for another day. As and when Dave Feenan organizes something on blockchain and DLT, I'd then love to talk to you guys about blockchain and DLT standards. The first standard is nearly ready, but more about that later. I've been doing teaching at level 8 and level 9 for at this time, over 3.5 decades. And I've been doing a lot of corporate training. I used to be a Microsoft certified trainer. Currently, apart from my own consulting practice and the pro bono standards work I do with NSAI, I also teach as associate faculty at National College of Ireland, where I teach on the master's programs in cloud, in cybersecurity, in fintech, and the data analytics. As far as corporate training is concerned, I did a stint nearly 20 years ago. Anybody remembers just there was a company named EDS, Electronic Data Systems, and that collapsed in the early noughties. They actually collapsed. They were about to go under before 9/11 happened. And that company got acquired by HP, and again, HP spun it out, and that's now HPE. They were one of the first to start e-learning on a big scale. On a global scale, they had in 2001, they had about 150 or 180,000 employees worldwide. And they decided to move all training online. And when people were leaving the company, because that started a wave of people quitting and people not joining. And one of the reasons that was given was the company wasn't investing in their training. They were trying to save money, but they actually lost people. Maybe the idea was right, but the time was not appropriate. So things have been changing. And as we all know, we have an elephant that's come into the room that's on this planet. Actually, we all know just a tiny virus, half alive, not even fully alive. But it's the impact of the virus has been like that of an elephant let loose in a field, and it destroys everything, forces people to work differently. As you can see from this photograph, one of the things I like to do is go watch wildlife and shoot it with a camera, not with a gun. So I decided I'll just use my own photographs instead of stock photography. Electronic data systems was way ahead of its time. People were not ready. Now, the coronavirus has caused us to make a change. It's not that this change was not happening, that we gone online. And it's not that we will remain in this world. The post-corona world would be different. And that's what I want to, I first want to give you my opinion, and then I'll take question answers. That's what I actually miss about the traditional format where you guys would be sitting in front of me. And you could ask me questions or make a comment at any point of time. But we have to make do with the new world. So let's step back a bit. If we look at the types of learning, fundamentally, we have the basic skills, the three R's: reading, writing, right, and arithmetic. And we need a bit of communication skills. That sort of stuff at the primary level, most children pick it up by observing, by copying. In fact, as we all know, one of the methods of teaching at the primary level is the Montessori system, where they let children play with educational toys. That's one type of learning. And that, to my mind, in my humble opinion, would always require social contact. And you can see that's why the some of our member states in the EU, like Denmark, the first schools they're opening are the primary schools because you need to get that basic skill in. Then, as we move up the levels from level 5 onwards, generally what somebody needs to learn can be divided into two broad categories: the how to do something and why are we doing something. So, why are we doing this seminar this way and not in person in the IBEC meeting room? Because of social distancing, because we should not supposed to travel for work if possible. How are we doing it? Well, Technology Ireland, ICT Skillnet is using Zoom. There are other alternatives. Some people would be using Teams, somebody would be using other tools and technologies. For one-to-one meetings, I don't know about you guys. I do use WhatsApp very frequently these days. And I'm sitting in Teams. I actually had to remember to log out of Teams on my laptop before starting this. Otherwise, you'd hear ding, ding, ding all the time. So, to my mind, basic skills need social contact. You need somebody to show a child how to do it. Similarly, when it comes to communication skills, there have been attempts, people have made video courses showing how to do a presentation, but usually they have failed. On the other hand, in general, how to do something, how to, for example, cook a recipe, right? Recipe for a dish, all that sort of stuff, yes, how would work. But then we have the whys, the concepts. The problem with concepts is that everybody learns them differently because we learn things in a different way. Some of us assimilate better by doing, some by listening, some by reading, some by watching, some by discussions. The type of learning, the whys, is very variable. So we have the basic skills, the hows, and the whys. The delivery techniques, broadly speaking, we got three distinct categories. We have the traditional classroom going back to the beginning of time, the instructor led delivery. And as we all know, things like MOOCs, etc., were tried and failed miserably. Instructor led delivery, to my mind, when it comes to the concepts, the whys, has no substitute even today. Today, I have been using online technologies to deliver courses in NCI to level 9 students. But and I'm pretty confident I'm more or less doing the same job as I would do in the class. But that's because of a major, major difference. The course was not online earlier. For the first 8 weeks, it was classroom delivery. 4 weeks left in the semester, 2 weeks out of which one is for revision and one is for project submission, presentation, review, etc. 2 weeks of teaching, and I must say that the management, the senior management in NCI was, you know, far-sighted, and they told us 2 weeks in advance, guys, see if you can change the way you deliver because the building may have to be closed. So some people like me front-loaded the lecture part, the tutorials, the labs. Yeah, when it comes to the whys, especially at level 9, which involves discussion where every student is a participant, is actively contributing to the class. I very often learn from my students on a particular module that I deliver. Usually in the 12 weeks, I would learn at least maybe 3, 4 things that I didn't know earlier because some of the students would come from a different background and bring a different viewpoint or bring some practical hands on experience, especially the students on the springboard courses. A lot of them have experience and have join the program to get a level line and to formalize their knowledge and to make sure that there are no gaps in their knowledge. Then we have self paced delivery, a methodology that's used very often for the house. And there have been techniques developed over the past few years which are a mix of instructor led and self paced delivery. Things like flipped classroom. Many of us may have heard of it, many may not have heard of a flipped classroom. In a flipped classroom, what happens is I would give my students the content, I would give them a reading list at least a week before. I will tell them this week the topic I would be covering next week and expect them to come to class after reading it. I would very often maybe do a small assessment, self assessment, let them see where they are, and I would see the results, wouldn't grade them, and then enter into discussions. So, this sort of flipped classroom, again, my own personal experiences, works where the Y percentage, again, in the previous slide, I put in 3 distinct slots, but as we all know, in the real world, things are never clear cut. Many topics have a bit of both. Topics that have are mostly hows, only a little bit of whys, are, in my humble opinion, suited to flipped classroom. Let people go through notes, go through manuals, and see how to do stuff. And then why are we doing it? Why are things done in a particular way? What are the gotchas? That could be done in class in the instructor-led part. And then the third methodology is self learning. As we move up the levels, at level 10, as we all know, PhD level is mostly self learning, it's research. Even at the master's level, I, for one, would have projects in almost every module where the student will have to learn something on their own. Again, techniques have been developed. Some of them are suitable to the post corona world for online or mostly online. Things like, have we heard of, I'm sure we would have heard of problem based learning, where you present a problem and the students go away and work on it. PBL is also used extensively in corporate training, but less on the whys. Corporate training focuses more on the hows. You know, if you look at technology certification training from any of the big players, it's all how to do things. And that's why the exams are closed book. Again, that's a discussion point for another day. If anybody's here from one of the big IT companies, lads, really seriously, I was a Microsoft certified trainer for 10 years and an AWS authorized instructor for 3 years. I gave it all up because that's not how people work in real life. In real life, do you really expect that your engineers would not have access to manuals to the internet? They would Google or DuckDuckGo instead of flipping through pages or relying on their own memory. So, we have to look at how to do assessment of different methodologies. In fact, more important, if we go back and look at how to assess the way things have been delivered, the assessment technique has to change. Instructor led delivery could be more discussions, subjective, essay type. What do you think? What's your opinion? And that's what QQI says at level 9. But self-paced delivery, people have learned on their own. Maybe we have to do open book. And that's one change that all HEIs in the country have had to do suddenly, very quickly. Let's see how it goes, where we do not have any exams, end of semester exams this year. The department has said there'll be no exams. It all has to be replaced with assessment. Whether it's an open book exam where you give the question and the students submit it by the evening or the next day, or it's a project, right? So things are changing. The methodologies are merging in the post corona world. We need to distinguish between e learning and online learning. E learning, there have been spectacular failures. I started off by giving you an example of that. EDS, one of the causes of its failure was they switched completely to e learning. The MOOCs that were started, not very many. If you look at the courses in Pluralsight or Coursera or this or that, the courses that are popular are the ones that talk about how to do things, not the whys. E-learning, because e-learning cannot adjust. Now, there's a lot of research work being done in that area. People who specialize in learning and teaching methodology, who do research in those areas, they're looking at adaptive e-learning, where as you work through the courseware, the material presented to you will change. But we are a bit away from it. I've seen a couple of courses. For example, Harvard Business School has some online courses which are designed that way. But you know what? For one module, do you think any institution here can afford to spend $250,000 developing content? That's the sort of money that's involved today, and that's to do adaptive e-learning content building. We've otherwise done e-learning very well. If I'm sure some people would have been working in e-learning, we had the e-learning cluster, one of the perhaps the most successful of all the clusters that EI and IDA funded. It was one of the first ones, I believe. If Dave Feenan's around, maybe he can unmute himself and comment on that. Again, that's what I miss in the post-corona world. I can't ask somebody to jump in and add more to the discussion. It becomes very sequential. My favorite comment always is opening sentences. Please ask me questions at any time. E-learning traditionally is mostly the content is scanned. But what we are doing right now is not e-learning, it's online learning. We are not face to face, we are not physically present in the same room. Now, at this point, I am going to go ahead and answer the question. The question was from Anthony McCauley. How do we make remote learning enjoyable? And what about the role of VR and AR to improve the experience? So, to my mind, this is something that is not new. Some companies in the original e-learning cluster, I'm forgetting the name, there was one company, they did a lot of work, I'm not sure whether it's still around or not, where they use VR for medicine, for anatomy, so that instead of dissecting real bodies, getting cadavers for medical school is a challenge anywhere in the world. They developed simulations. So VR and AR can improve the experience. The problem, which I will take up at the end with VR and AR, is simply affordability. There is a significant cost involved. I mean, even today for this seminar, right? Would this have been possible 10 years ago, 15 years ago? No. It is possible now because I'm connected on broadband, Virgin Media, and I must do my little rant. Virgin Media, I'm paying for 500 Mbps. These days during the day, I get something like 20 Mbps. There have been failures. We have techniques and tools currently, primarily because of bandwidth restrictions and because of the costs involved. VR and AR will have to wait for mainstream adoption. That's my humble opinion about it. But it's nothing new. It's the question of can it go mass market or not today? Maybe in a few years, maybe in another 5 years, that will happen. But today, simply, we all know what has happened after post corona, everybody working from home. the EU formally requested, in fact, I think, was it a request or an order? One of you might be knowing. You could use the question to window to let me know. Was it a request from the EU, or were Netflix and Amazon Prime, etc., ordered to stop HD streaming to free up bandwidth? If we have the elephant, the only animal the elephant is afraid of is the tiger. And again, the tiger is afraid of only the elephant. And the elephant of coronavirus, the changed world where we need bandwidth, so we do online. In fact, I think what will happen, here's my thought on it. Because of the change, we have all been forced to move online very, very quickly. And as usual, in Ireland, we've adapted to it. In some other countries where I know people, they're just waiting. They are even thinking of deferring the next semester completely, and they will start only in January. We have adapted, but we will go back to blended maybe. We were slowly going in that direction. For example, in NCI itself, some programs have been offered online for the past few years. I have some experience of those. A couple of the Skillnet masters programs are delivered online. And the tigers, to chase the elephant away, four tigers, wireless broadband. We have 4G and now 5G being rolled out. For example, my backup at home, apart from Virgin Media, I also have a 5G modem that gives me about 50 Mbps steady. Devices, affordable services, and location aware services. Because if people can't afford it, it just won't work. Right? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I use my phone all the time, but sometimes, you know what? I actually don't make a single standard voice call. I'm in WhatsApp chatting and I just hit the call button there, or I would use Teams to call someone. And it's all very affordable. And I must say the telecom industry responded well to the current challenge. I was reading just what today or yesterday when they said that they will give unlimited data to everybody. And of course, location aware services. These are the four tigers that are pushing the adoption, that are making it easy to go to a hybrid model. For example, I have been on conferences and seminars similar to this, where there might be half the people are in the room and there might be 50 in the room and another 100, 150 who are outside, who've joined live through streaming. The problem, as I said earlier, is the following. If we go back, look at the previous slide, affordability. We have the north side versus south side divide. We in Dublin are used to it, right? And you can see the Halfpenny Bridge, you have to pay a toll, and it's pretty much the same today. Globally, learners, whether corporate or higher education or basically at any level of learning, are actually in three different categories. There are people who are fortunate enough, like us, who have plenty of broadband capacity, who have the devices. I have not one, but my wife also teaches in NCI. Between her and me, we have 4 laptops and 3 smartphones at home. And we got 2 different connections to 2 different mobile providers, and the mobile modem is the third one, and a broadband. So there are some of us who have the facilities already. I could use AR, VR. I don't have it, but NCI has a couple of HoloLenses. I could use those. But then we have the bulk of the people in the first world country who do have decent enough broadband where online learning can take place. However, we have the Southsiders who are less privileged, right? Who don't have, forget enough bandwidth, they may not even have a laptop. I do know in some homes it's become a problem because they have 2 machines, but there are 4 people, 5 people in the house, and everybody needs to go online, right? Maybe some of you are in the same situation or know other people who are in the same situation. Don't know whether anybody's been reading up or not. There's been an issue in the Midlands and in inner city Dublin. There are families that don't have any laptop, right? They don't have a laptop. So content must be optimized for mobile delivery. They are connected to the internet, but via mobile devices, mobile first. But most of the online learning technologies, yeah, you could watch this using Zoom through the mobile. I usually attend such events on my mobile, but there are people in the Midlands, for example, where there is no connectivity or very poor connectivity. In some primary schools, what they're doing is going back 20, 30, 40 years, they're printing off assignments and worksheets and mailing the packs and going out and distributing the packs to the students. So you can see even in a country like Ireland is one of the highest penetration rates of broadband. Now, guys, don't get going about the speed of broadband we have, but we generally have very good availability. 95% of area and 99% of the population does have access if they have the money. So we have the chasm there. We have to cross the chasm of making it all affordable. Otherwise, it won't happen. So at this point, I'm going to go look at the questions. It is half. Mark is asking post COVID-19 world, the value of executive MBA in Ireland, are the high fees justified? I'm a techie first. I actually am of opinion that an MBA is not justified at any level. Now, some of my friends teach on MBA programs and they may be very unhappy, right, with what I'm going to say. But I have colleagues who teach on MBA programs. I have friends from college days who went and did an MBA from different places all over the world. Some of them are faculty members or, like me, are associate faculty. And it seems to me that an MBA program is more of a networking thing. That's why people pay through their nose to go to one of the top 10 schools so that they become friends with other people who be working in other companies because people do business with people. Most of the content in the MBA level. Now, it's not that I do have a level 9 in from a business school in DIT, well, Technical University, Technology University, Dublin. Now, I did the PG diploma in new business development and entrepreneurship, the Hot House program. So yes, my teachers there would be unhappy with what I'm saying, but most of that content is actually suitable for self-learning, in my opinion. So my thoughts, the high fees for an MBA program are not justified anyway, pre or post-COVID. That's my bit. I have one more question from Claire. Equitable access to technology. Yes, Claire, you are absolutely right. And I've seen this happening, not just now. I've seen firsthand. I used to do some contract work for a company, and we used to put together a CD that they would distribute worldwide. And then some people in the head office in the state decided to discontinue putting the content on CD. They said, just put it on the website. Now, I'm talking about maybe 12, 15 years ago, 12 to 15 years ago when I used to produce that CD. And 700 MB of content. And I had to explain very gently to them that your CD is mostly distributed in Asia and Africa. We realize 700 MB, downloading 700 megabyte will take 70 days in some of those places. Do you really want people there to use your content or not? So that is a major, major issue. And grants, etc., are not sustainable. The way I think the way forward is to drive the cost down. And therefore, I think where Irish innovation is required is using mobile phones. Decent enough, Android phones are available today, which are for less than 50 euros. If we can start developing content and methodologies and tools to deliver online training using those devices, yes, we have a chance. So this definitely needs to be addressed. Adrian has a question, students learning languages. Okay. Now, I think when it comes to languages, it's a basic skill. So you do need the personal contact. Now, there's a lot of work that's being done. I have an app that I downloaded one day, never really used it, Duolingo, because hey, I should be learning French and Spanish. And I have rudimentary German that I had to do in school and then forgot all about it. All I remember is Guten Tag, Guten Morgen, and Auf Wiedersehen, and Danke, and a couple of other words. Right? I think when it comes to learning languages, it'll actually be more the flipped classroom that will come into play, where you'd be giving the students, here's content, here are video clips, here are audio recordings, listen to them, then come back and discuss. Because the problem with languages is they're all colloquial. No language apart from Esperanto and Sanskrit have strict grammar rules. Every language has humor, has satire, right? And we all know the problem, those of us who are from a tech background, with sentiment analysis because of those. So when teaching somebody languages, right, and I can tell you stories about the teaching of an Indian language that is littered with double meaning all the time, how the stories of how the British army officers were taught that language. But so it would be a different world, right? So students learning languages, yes, teachers would still be needed. Pronunciation, you can only listen so much, but you need to practice with somebody. Right? To me, is the difference between translation and interpretation. Interpreter sort of work, people who want to converse, they would need instructor led. Asking my opinion about the forced move to online learning. Will it change attitudes to the value of online learning? As some still see the traditional classroom as the best option. Well, Corina, okay, I know about EDS because of the last training manager standing in EDS anywhere in the world. And I would say that, in my humble opinion, the traditional classroom is still the best option. Of course, we will have VR where we'll all be able to, HoloLens allows that sort of meeting. But again, it's the question of affordability. Unless you are working for Microsoft and the senior enough level, everybody doesn't have a HoloLens. So you can't do VR meetings. Like today's session, for example, let me tell you the difference between the online one that I've done and if I were doing it in person, if you're sitting in the room, I would have started off by asking people. It would be far more interactive. I've been asking people, okay, so how many have heard of EDS? I would have been asking questions in between, right? And also, as a teacher, as an instructor, I, for one, don't speak from a canned script. I don't speak from a written script when I'm delivering a lecture, whether it's, a seminar, it's a community event, or I'm teaching in class or corporate learning. Okay, corporate learning often, the Microsoft, that sort of training, the Microsoft certified program and the AWS certified stuff. Yes, there is a script, but I would vary it depending upon the previous knowledge of my students. Right? I would give examples that are relevant to them. I would ask them content. So therefore, I personally think traditional classroom is definitely still the best option. However, we will move to blended more often. For example, because of my corporate consulting and I travel, I can't be there all 12 weeks. So maybe now the students would be more open to blended. That maybe for tutorials, they don't need to come, they don't need to travel all the way for a 2-hour tutorial session in which they'll get 5-7 minutes maximum with me. Right? So I think where we are gonna go is blended. There's another question from Bona, online certifications. Okay, CompTIA, etc., right? Do they hold much value when you have a business big background? To my mind, for certain roles, yes. The value they hold is they'll get you in through the door for an interview, and then you'll have to demonstrate that you know the stuff. In general, these are necessary. You if you have a level 8 in computing, if you have work experience, then yes, you will get in. If you don't have either, then you can get an online certification. However, at least in Ireland, I think if you somebody interested in making a transition, right, like Bona is, Bona, feel free to ping me directly. It'll be far better if you go and do a higher diploma or a PG diploma. The Springboard Plus program offers you the choice to do that without paying fee, right? Well, you have to pay, I think, 10%. Third level university will suffer as it's not just the learning but the whole college experience. Yes, I agree fully with you, Adrian. And you know what gonna happen there? We will see, just like I said, three classes of people on affordability. Similarly, educational institutions will end up getting divided into three. I was talking to the chairman of a university, and he said very clearly, it's a liberal arts university. He said very clearly, well, we've had to move online, but we will go back. We are very much a physical university. We will not permit virtual. In fact, they do not permit guest faculty to deliver anything virtually. They would pay you, and you go there and do a block delivery for a couple of weeks because they want the whole experience, and they want the faculty to live on campus. They won't let senior faculty live outside. One of the conditions of employment is you will live on campus, right? Not only the students, but the staff interaction. I was fortunate enough, I went to a college where about half the students lived on campus and similarly about half the faculty members. And we learned far more outside the class than in the class, right? So I agree fully with Adrian that we will lose that collaboration and learning and experience. And actually, for the MBA programs, even more so. Okay, you have my email address. Feel free to drop me an email if anybody wants to discuss anything. Okay, folks,